Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ajit Kulkarni from Maharashtra, Pune, India. I want to introduce you my second volume of Homeopathy through Harmony in Totality. This is the book containing 750 pages and 30 chapters. The book is divided into mainly two sections. The first section deals with data processing and prescribing methodologies. This chapter contains, 7 chapters. The first one beginning with objective analysis of data processing, where I have offered 20 points of a recipe of processing of the data. We know homeopathy gives you huge amount of data, and because of our concept of individualization, it becomes a process where we follow our own wisdom in our own way. However, there is no standardization. I always say that individualization doesn't mean freedom unlimited. So keeping up the spirit of the individualization as a central tenet of prescribing, can we standardize the processing of the data in homeopathy? And with this objective, I have been working over many years. And this 20 points of a recipe has been offered, where everything from the standpoint of data processing has been taken into account. For example, physiology, pathology, clinical medicine, evolution of a disease process, sensitivity, susceptibility, miasm, disease potential, the stages of the disease, acute, chronic, phase of the disease, pattern of the response, whether the pattern is slow, whether the onset is sudden, whether sudden onset is followed by gradual, whether gradual is followed by sudden. All these aspects which are involved in the biological system manifestation have been taken into account, and these 20 points have been presented for the sake of data processing. With this data processing, with so many varied methodologies, you have the vision of totality before you, what Hanuman presented as the concept of the totality. Then the second chapter deals with acute prescribing, challenges and the solutions. You know, acute prescribing has a very big role to play in our clinical practice. The more the success with the acutes, the encounter with the chronic goes on increasing in our clinical practice. However, the philosophy of acute has to be understood very well. Therefore, I have developed 4 modules of processing of the data, so that the data which you have accurately gleaned has to be processed adequately. You know, everything in homeopathy is about collective and selective, about accurate and adequate. So these 4 modules have been presented so that our homeopathic student, the practitioner, doesn't lag behind. He knows that acute case very well, and then a big justice can be given to the evolving picture in an acute case. Many examples have been given, many cases have been illustrated in order to highlight and to convince the reader what exactly each module has to convey in a very rational and scientific way about the approach of homeopathy in dealing with the acute cases. The third chapter is about intercurrent prescribing. You know, this is a very debatable point in homeopathy, and I found that this is a very important aspect in homeopathy. When to give an intercurrent, when not to give an intercurrent. Can we rationally think over this methodology in clinical practice? And then came out 12 points of understanding indications of the intercurrent prescribing. When to give a nosode, when to give a salcode, when to use the lack of reaction as a big rubric from the generalities. So how to stimulate the vitality of an organism which needs to be aroused when there is a miasmatic block. All these ideas have been comprehensively dealt with through the chapter on intercurrent prescribing. Then the fourth one is the keynote system of prescribing, and my analysis of the keynote prescribing has been presented to the readers. I think that the real keynote is to be understood after we have understood the totality of symptoms. I mean to say that when we have this totality before us, we develop a kind of a vision of totality. Then the keynotes are understood in a far better way. And I want to emphasize a point that it is not only a way of PQRS symptoms to be dealt with, but from keynote we have to also understand the key theme of a case. So a lot of illustrations have been given how to derive the key theme out of keynotes, so that you then focus upon the biological system. You focus upon the personality of an individual who is suffering from a disorder. And you just not change few symptoms here and there. So the zigzag method, sometimes you follow with PQRS, you have not to follow. And you should not brush aside that the personality itself is sick, that the constitution and diathesis, these are to be treated even with the keynote system of prescribing. Then, talking hands is the title of the body language. We know that our fingers are the gifted communicators. They are the antennae which receive the message, which give the message. So understanding the gestures of the talking means you peep into the mind of a patient, and then you have a precise redefined totality. What exactly a patient has to convey you a message through the hand gestures. So this chapter gives illustrations also. The next chapter is defense mechanism. This is a chapter written by my friend Dr. Alexander Maltushev from Moscow. The purpose of giving this unique chapter in my book is to give you the utility of defense mechanism, one of the great tools of data processing in homeopathy, because when a person uses the defense mechanisms, basically it's a compensatory mechanism to live the life. And then the whole personality is involved in the presentation of the defense mechanism. So it becomes a unique individualistic response. So this is a tool which we have tried to offer you in our Harmony in Totality Volume 2nd book. Then there is a chapter on failures in homeopathic clinical practice. Why failures occur? Who is responsible for this? And this chapter deals with many aspects where we have to be very careful, very cautious, so that we do not fail in clinical practice. This is an issue with case taking, with case documentation, with case processing, in the reference system, with repertory, with selection of the rubrics, with the materia medica, which materia medica, which way to follow. And then once you know this, that the whole idea of failures in homeopathy is related to, again, the basic theme of elicitation of the data, adequate and accurate, and processing of the data, again accurate, rational and adequate. So this first chapter, from objective analysis to the 7th chapter, failures, completes the data processing and the prescribing methods. The second section of this book deals with the homeopathic materia medica, and this is almost a very vast subject which I have offered through 500 pages. There are three sections which are given to this big section. First is general section, where we have presented three chapters. First chapter is monogram, from multitude to access. The meaning is that in each remedy there is a core, there is an essence, there is a DNA code. This encoding must have been known to a homeopath as far as the remedy understanding is concerned. So each word in this monogram box is like a genetic code which gives you the essence, the soul, the kernel, the heart of the remedy. So the whole concept is to understand the behavior of a remedy, pathogenetic action of a remedy, miasmatic assessment of a remedy, and some very deep characters which apply to the case, the characters that bind together the data in a very integrated manner. So there is a logic in the understanding of the monogram which we have given. Then comes the Anekantavad and the study of the Materia Medica. Anekantavad is a Jainism doctrine of manyness of truth. Although we understand truth is one, there are many ways to achieve the truth, and every way has its own logic. You should not say that my logic is the only way. So this particular understanding of the Anekantavad has been presented, how the Jainism concept can be integrated with the holistic concept of homeopathy, especially the Materia Medica, which is nothing but a reflection of the universe. Then comes the chapter Inheritance, Constitution, and the relationship of the remedies. This chapter is particularly useful for the children, where to find out a constitutional remedy is difficult because of scanty data, because of poor observations, because of one-sided case, so that our prescription should be accurate at the constitutional level. We have developed this understanding of the blend, the cocktail of the remedies, with the consideration of the genetic remedies related to the parents, with a lot of illustrations. Then the Materia Medica has been presented through two sections. First, individual remedies. In these individual remedies, I have presented almost 15 remedies where my own understanding, based on logic, based on repertorial perspective, based on my cases, clinical experiences, and analogical relationships. These are all the approaches given in the individual remedies. I have presented here Netrumor personality with differential remedies, for example. Then comes Medorinum, Syphilinum, Belladonna. Then there are many other chapters like Sepia. You know, Sepia cuttlefish, the ingredients are 5. Sulfur, then calcium, magnesium, zincum, and melanin. All these 5 components have been studied in detail through pathophysiology, through behavioral responses, and then the unique personality characterization of sepia has been offered to the readers. So it is in this way the chapters have been given. Then comes group study of Materia Medica. In the group study of Materia Medica, I have offered argentum group, mercury group, ferrum group, carbon group, ammonium group, then alkalines, magnesiums, Solanaceae family. Then comes, you see the acid remedies in our clinical practice. Snake have been presented to the symbolic meaning of the spiritualism, of the religious affairs, and also through the history of the mankind. Then lac remedies, spider remedies, and the bird remedies have been presented in detail. On each remedy, there are special comments which have been made by me. So you have my own way of understanding and analysis of the personality of each lag group, each spider group, each bird remedies, with of course a lot of illustrative cases. And then comes my 2 chapters on nosors and 2 chapters on the sarcos. So through this book, I have tried to present something creative, something special, something unique. It is not only the data which has been collected and presented to you. It is the data which has been understood. I have been practicing homeopathy in the last 40 years. And I became an international teacher, teaching a lot of students from numerous countries. And I found that there is an extreme need to revise the data. There are many missing links in our literature which needs to be exposed, which needs to be brought out in a more rational way and fill up the gaps of clinical practice. There are a lot of new rubrics which have been coined by me, which have been presented through the cases and through the logical discussion. So I have a request to all of you. The book has been published by B. Jain Publishers, New Delhi. A very big appreciation has been done to the volume 1. Second edition has come up, and I am very sure many editions of this second volume of Harmony in Totality will also be welcomed by our fraternity. And for your information, my 3rd volume of Harmony in Totality awaits the publication, and I hope I will be able to offer you this in the month of August 2024. So I request you, read this book carefully, and I am very sure it will be a very valuable addition to your literature, and you will enjoy the book and enjoy your practice based on the contents which are given in this book. Thank you all.